Story 1. I moved to Oak Ridge Estates about 8 months ago after landing a promotion that finally let me afford a small house instead of renting an apartment. It wasn't anything fancy, a modest 2-bedroom with a tiny yard, but it was mine, and I loved it. The neighborhood seemed quiet and normal, which was exactly what I wanted after years of dealing with paper-thin apartment walls and neighbors who thought 3 a.m. was the perfect time for band practice. The first few months were peaceful. I kept to myself mostly, setting up my home office in the spare bedroom since my job lets me work remotely 3 days a week. I nodded politely to neighbors when I saw them, but didn't go out of my way to socialize. Between work, fixing up the house, and my online graduate classes, I barely had time to breathe, let alone join neighborhood barbecues. I did notice the woman across the street seemed to watch me a lot. She was middle-aged with an expensive-looking haircut and usually wore workout clothes despite never appearing to actually exercise. She always seemed to be watering her immaculate front garden or checking her mail whenever I left for work. Sometimes she'd wave enthusiastically and I'd nod back, but I was usually preoccupied, rushing to my car with my travel mug in one hand and my laptop bag in the other. I now realized that I should have paid more attention, should have seen the warning signs. But how was I supposed to know that someone could be so entitled? It all started on a Tuesday. I remember because I had an important virtual meeting with clients in Europe, which meant I had to be online at 6 a.m. I was groggy and barely functional, having stayed up late the night before preparing my presentation. When I went to make coffee, I glanced out my kitchen window and froze. There was a shiny red SUV parked directly across my driveway, blocking me in completely. At first, I thought someone must have had an emergency, or maybe a visitor had parked there temporarily during the night. Annoying, but these things happen. I wasn't planning to leave until after my meeting anyway, so I figured I'd deal with it later. The meeting went well, and afterward, I decided to take care of the parking situation. I walked outside and immediately recognized the vehicle as belonging to the woman across the street. I'd seen it in her driveway many times before. I walked across to her house and rang the doorbell. After a minute, she answered, looking perfectly put together despite the early hour. Hi, sorry to bother you, but your car is blocking my driveway. I need to head out soon, so could you move it, please? The woman looked at me with an expression I can only describe as smug satisfaction. Woman, oh, I know it's blocking your driveway. I parked it there on purpose. I blinked, sure I had misheard her. I'm sorry. What? Why would you do that? Woman, maybe next time you'll remember your manners and wave back when a neighbor waves to you. I've been nothing but friendly, and you've been incredibly rude. I stood there, completely stunned. Was this really happening? Was an adult woman blocking my driveway because I didn't wave at her enthusiastically enough? Look, I'm sorry if I seemed rude. I've been really busy with work and Woman, save it. I'm teaching you a lesson about neighborhood etiquette. The car stays where it is for now. And with that, she shut the door in my face. I stood there for a solid minute, trying to process what had just happened. Then I knocked again, harder this time. No answer. I could see her through the side window, deliberately ignoring me. I went back home, fuming, and called the non-emergency police line. The officer who answered sounded bored. Officer on phone, since it's on a public street. Ma'am, this is more of a civil matter. You could try talking to your neighbor again. I tried that. She's doing this on purpose to teach me a lesson for not waving at her. The officer sighed. Officer on phone. Look, if it's still there tomorrow, call back and we can send someone out to document it. But honestly, your best bet is to call a towing company. You have the right to have a vehicle towed if it's blocking your driveway access. I thanked him and hung up, then sent an email to my boss explaining the situation and asking if I could work from home for the rest of the day. Thankfully, he was understanding. That evening, I tried again to talk to the woman, but she wouldn't answer her door. Her car remained firmly in place, blocking my driveway completely. The next morning, I woke up hoping the woman had come to her senses overnight. No such luck. The red SUV was still there, mocking me. I called the non-emergency line again, and this time they sent an officer out to document the situation. The officer was sympathetic, but not particularly helpful. "Officer, yeah, she can't block your driveway like this. It's against city ordinance. But all I can do is write a citation. I can't force her to move it." Me. "So what am I supposed to do? I can't get my car out to go to work." "Officer, you have every right to call a towing company. Here's my card with the incident number. If you have any trouble, give me a call." After the officer left, I went back to the woman's house. This time, she answered, looking irritated. "Woman, what now?" Me. "The police just came by and said you're violating city ordinance. Please move your car so I can get to work." Woman. "I told you, I'm teaching you a lesson. Maybe next time you'll be more neighborly. The car stays for 3 days. Then, if you apologize properly for being so rude all these months, I'll move it." Me. "This is ridiculous. I never did anything to you." Woman. "Exactly, you did nothing. No friendly waves, no stopping to chat, not even a proper introduction when you moved in. That's not how we do things in this neighborhood." She shut the door again, and I heard the lock click. I was beyond furious now. I pulled out my phone and called a towing company. They said they could be there within the hour. True to their word, the tow truck arrived about 45 minutes later. The driver checked my ID and proof of residence, looked at the situation, and started setting up to tow the SUV. I was in my living room when I heard the screeching. "Woman, what do you think you're doing? Get away from my car." I walked outside to see the woman frantically running toward the tow truck operator, who looked completely unfazed. Tow truck driver. "Ma'am, your vehicle is illegally blocking a residential driveway. I have the homeowner's authorization to remove it." Woman. "This is my neighborhood. You can't do this." The tow truck driver just continued with his work, securing the SUV to the truck. The woman turned to me, her face red with rage. "Woman, how dare you? Do you know who my husband is? He's a lawyer. We will sue you for everything you own." Me. "You're blocking my driveway. It's illegal. I asked you nicely to move it, and you refused. The police have already documented it." Woman. "This is not over." She stormed back to her house, and I watched as her beautiful, expensive SUV was towed away. The tow truck driver gave me a business card with the information about where she could retrieve her vehicle and how much it would cost. Tow truck driver, good luck with that one. Some people, huh? Me, thanks. Sorry you had to deal with her. I finally got my car out and made it to work, thinking that would be the end of it. Surely no rational person would escalate this further, right? Wrong. 3 days later, I was served with papers. She was actually suing me for the cost of retrieving her vehicle, claiming I had her car illegally towed and caused her emotional distress. Her husband wasn't actually a lawyer, it turned out, but they had hired one who apparently didn't mind taking on ridiculous cases. I had to hire a lawyer of my own, which wasn't cheap, but my lawyer assured me this was an open and shut case. Lawyer. She admitted to the police that she was blocking your driveway on purpose. We have the police report. This won't even make it to trial. The lawyer was right about the case being straightforward, but wrong about it not going to trial. The woman refused all attempts to settle, insisting we go before a judge. The day of the hearing arrived, and I was a nervous wreck. I had never been to court before. My lawyer kept reassuring me that we had nothing to worry about, but I couldn't help picturing everything going wrong. When we entered the courtroom, I saw the woman and her husband sitting with their lawyer. She glared at me as if I was the unreasonable one in this situation. The judge, an older woman with silver hair and sharp eyes, listened as the woman's lawyer presented their case first. According to them, I had moved into the neighborhood and been standoffish and rude, refusing to engage with the established community. The woman had merely parked temporarily near my driveway to try to talk to me, and I had maliciously had her car towed without warning. It took everything in me not to laugh out loud at this blatant lie. When it was our turn, my lawyer presented the police report, which clearly stated the woman had admitted to deliberately blocking my driveway to teach me a lesson for not waving at her. He also had a written statement from the tow truck driver confirming what he had witnessed and, most damning of all, security camera footage from my doorbell camera showing both of our conversations where she openly admitted what she was doing. The judge looked increasingly unimpressed as our evidence mounted. When my lawyer finished, she turned to the woman. "Judge, let me make sure I understand this correctly. You blocked this person's driveway for 3 days because they didn't wave at you enough." Woman: "Your Honor, it's about respect and community standards." Judge: "No, it's about you breaking the law and then wasting this court's time with a frivolous lawsuit. Not only am I dismissing your case, but I'm ordering you to pay the defendant's legal fees as well as court costs." The woman gasped, and her husband put his head in his hands. Woman: "But Your Honor." Judge: "I suggest you stop talking before I find you in contempt, and I strongly advise you to leave your neighbor alone from now on. If I hear about any more lessons from you, the consequences will be much more severe. Are we clear?" Woman: "Yes, Your Honor." The judge banged her gavel, and just like that, it was over. We had won. Outside the courtroom, my lawyer shook my hand. "Lawyer, congratulations. She'll have to pay all your legal fees, plus her own, plus the original towing charge. Altogether, her little lesson probably cost her around $5,000. I felt an immense wave of relief wash over me. As we walked toward the exit, I spotted the woman and her husband arguing with their lawyer. She caught my eye and gave me a look of pure hatred. I did what any mature adult would do in that situation. I smiled and waved. For weeks afterward, I made a point of waving enthusiastically every single time I saw her. Eventually, she and her husband put their house up for sale and moved away. I hear the new neighbors are lovely. They brought me cookies when they moved in, and I made sure to wave at them every day for a week. Some lessons are expensive, but at least she finally learned hers. Story 2. My daughter had been begging me for weeks to let her set up a lemonade stand in our front yard. She's only 7, but she's always been the entrepreneurial type. Last summer, she collected rocks from our backyard, painted little faces on them, and tried to sell them to the neighbors as pet rocks. It was adorable, even if she only made about $5 total. This year, though, she wanted something more legitimate. She'd been saving her allowance for a month and had drawn up detailed plans for a lemonade stand. She even made a little business proposal, complete with crayon illustrations showing expected profits. How could I say no to that kind of initiative? So last Saturday, we set everything up. I helped her build a small table from some spare wood I had in the garage, and she decorated a poster board sign with "Lemonade 50 cents" written in her best handwriting. She was so proud of that sign. We made fresh lemonade together, real lemons, sugar, and water, and I taught her how to make change and be polite to customers. The stand looked great. She had lined up plastic cups, a pitcher full of lemonade with ice, and even some napkins. I set up a lawn chair nearby to supervise, but I wanted to give her space to run her little business on her own. She was beaming with excitement as the first few neighbors stopped by. An hour into her business venture, my daughter had already made about $8, which to a 7-year-old might as well be $1 million. The neighbors were supportive, with many paying $1 and telling her to keep the change. Some even came back for seconds, claiming it was the best lemonade they'd ever had, though I suspect they were just being kind. That's when I noticed the woman. I'd seen her around the neighborhood before, but we'd never spoken. She lived about 5 houses down and had only moved in about 6 months ago. From what I'd heard from other neighbors, she had already complained about several people's landscaping, garbage placement, and even the color someone had painted their front door. She was walking her small dog and kept glancing over at our lemonade stand with a sour expression that looked like she'd actually tasted something far more bitter than our lemonade. I had a feeling she might stop and say something, but I wasn't prepared for what happened next. She marched right up to the stand, pulling her tiny dog along, and glared down at my daughter. "Woman, do you have a permit for this?" My daughter looked confused and glanced at me with uncertainty in her eyes. "My daughter, a what?" "Woman, a permit. A food service permit. You can't just sell food and drinks to the public without proper licensing and health department approval." Me, excuse me, but she's just a child selling lemonade. Kids have been doing this forever. Woman, well, it's illegal. Do you have any idea what kind of germs could be in that lemonade? Was it prepared in a certified kitchen? Are you following proper food handling procedures? I doubt it. I tried to keep my cool, especially with my daughter watching. Me, I helped her make it in our kitchen. It's just lemonade, lemons, sugar, and water. It's perfectly safe. Woman, that's not for you to decide. That's for the health department. I'm afraid I'm going to have to report this illegal operation. I thought she was bluffing, but she pulled out her phone and started dialing. Me, are you seriously calling someone about a child's lemonade stand? Woman, I'm calling the police. This is a public health violation, and it needs to be shut down immediately. My daughter's eyes welled up with tears. My daughter, did I do something wrong? Me, no, sweetie, you didn't do anything wrong. Some people just don't understand fun. I turned back to the woman, who was now speaking into her phone. Woman, yes, I'd like to report an illegal food service operation. Yes, at 742 Maple Street. It's a lemonade stand being run by unsupervised children. No, there's no permit displayed. Yes, I'll wait here until you arrive. She hung up and gave me a smug look. Woman, the police are on their way. They'll sort this out. Me, this is ridiculous. It's a lemonade stand, not a restaurant. Woman, rules are rules. And I've seen what happens when people start ignoring rules. First, it's unlicensed lemonade stands, then it's unlicensed daycare centers, then who knows what else. Someone has to stand up for law and order in this neighborhood. I was dumbfounded by her dramatic escalation, but decided not to engage further. I comforted my daughter, who was now sitting behind her stand looking devastated. Me, it's okay, sweetie. You're not in trouble. Some people just get confused about rules sometimes. About 15 minutes later, a police car pulled up. I felt sick to my stomach. This was going to traumatize my daughter, having police called on her first business venture. The woman looked positively gleeful as an officer stepped out of the vehicle. The officer was a middle-aged man with a kind face. He approached us, nodding politely. "Officer, good afternoon. I received a call about an unlicensed food service operation." The woman stepped forward immediately. Woman, yes, officer. I'm the one who called. This child is selling beverages without proper permits or health department oversight. I believe that's a violation of Municipal Code Section 8.3. The officer looked at the stand, then at my frightened daughter, then back at the woman. Without saying anything, he walked up to the lemonade stand. "Officer, how much for a cup of lemonade, young lady?" My daughter looked at me, confused. I nodded encouragingly. "My daughter, 50 cents, sir." The officer reached into his pocket and pulled out $1. "Officer, I'll take one, please. And keep the change." My daughter's face brightened a little as she carefully poured him a cup. The woman was sputtering in disbelief. "Woman, officer, this is precisely the illegal activity I called about. Aren't you going to shut it down?" The officer took a long sip of the lemonade and smiled. "Officer, ma'am, I've been on the force for 20 years, and I've never shut down a child's lemonade stand. There's no law against it in our town." "Woman, but what about health codes, food service regulations?" The officer shook his head. "Officer, those apply to commercial establishments, not to children's lemonade stands. This is a tradition as American as apple pie." The woman's face was turning red. "Woman, so you're just going to allow this blatant disregard for proper procedure?" "Officer, ma'am, what I'm not going to allow is wasting police resources with frivolous complaints. He turned to face her fully now. Officer, in fact, I should inform you that knowingly filing a false police report is a misdemeanor in this state. Consider this your warning. If you call us again about a child's lemonade stand, we might have to take more formal action. The woman's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Woman, but I was just concerned about public safety. Officer, ma'am, I appreciate community vigilance, but this is clearly a supervised child engaging in a harmless summer activity. There are real issues that require police attention. He turned back to my daughter. Officer, this is excellent lemonade, by the way, one of the best I've had. My daughter beamed with pride. Woman, this is outrageous. I pay your salary with my tax dollars. The officer sighed and turned back to her. Officer, yes, ma'am, you do contribute to public services through your taxes, as do all citizens. That's why we need to use those resources responsibly. Now, is there anything else I can help you with today? She huffed, tugged on her dog's leash, and stormed off without another word. As she walked away, I could hear her muttering about calling the mayor and this neighborhood going downhill. The officer stayed for a few more minutes, chatting with my daughter about her business plan and giving her encouragement. Before he left, he bought another cup of lemonade, this time for his partner waiting in the patrol car. After the police left, my daughter looked at me with wide eyes. My daughter, why was that lady so mad about my lemonade? I sat down next to her, trying to find the right words. Some people forget what it's like to be a kid, sweetie, and sometimes grown-ups get so caught up in rules that they forget about what's really important. My daughter thought about this for a moment. My daughter, like having fun and making people happy with lemonade. Me, exactly. Word of the incident spread quickly through our neighborhood. The next day, my daughter's lemonade stand had a line of customers stretching halfway down the block. Neighbors I'd never even spoken to before came by to buy lemonade and show their support. Some brought cookies or brownies to add to her offerings, and one neighbor even made a proper wooden sign for her stand. By the end of the weekend, my daughter had made over $100 and was already planning how to expand her business next summer. She wanted to add cookies and maybe even hire her best friend as an employee. As for the woman who called the police, she's kept her distance since then. I've seen her walking her dog on the other side of the street, purposely avoiding our house. But the funniest part came about a week later. I was doing yard work when the officer who had responded to the call drove by on patrol. He slowed down, rolled down his window, and called out to me. Officer, just thought you might want to know your neighbor down the street got a citation yesterday for having her trash cans out 3 days after collection. Usually, we just give a warning for that sort of thing, but someone called it in, and well, we have to take all complaints seriously. He winked and drove off. I never found out who reported her trash can violation, but I have my suspicions. There are a lot of neighbors who bought lemonade that weekend, and it seems at least one of them believed in karma. My daughter's lemonade stand has become a regular weekend fixture in our neighborhood now. She's even started a small savings account with her earnings, and every now and then that same police officer stops by for a cup of lemonade on his patrol route. I learned something important from all this. Community is stronger than pettiness, and sometimes life hands entitled people exactly what they deserve: a sour dose of their own bitter medicine. Story 3. You know those days when everything is going smoothly and then some random person decides to ruin it all? Well, let me tell you about my trip to the grocery store last week. I had just moved to a new city for a job at a tech company. I was excited about the opportunity, but starting fresh somewhere unfamiliar is never easy. My apartment was still mostly empty, with unpacked boxes scattered around. After a week of takeout and delivery, I desperately needed to stock my kitchen with actual food. My budget was tight that month because of all the moving expenses. I'd spent hours researching sales and clipping digital coupons. I had a detailed shopping list organized by store layout to maximize efficiency. I even woke up early on my Saturday off to beat the crowds at SuperSave, the discount supermarket nearest to my apartment. The plan was working perfectly. I arrived at 7:30 am, grabbed a cart, and methodically worked through each aisle. I was careful to stick to my list, comparing prices and making sure I got the best deals. After about an hour and a half, my cart was nearly full with everything I needed for the next 2 weeks. I had calculated the total in my head as I shopped, making sure I wouldn't go over budget. Just as I was heading toward checkout, my phone rang. It was my new landlord. "Landlord, hey, there's a water leak in your building. I need you to check if it's coming from your apartment." "Me, right now? I'm in the middle of grocery shopping." Landlord: "Yes, now. Water is getting into the apartment below you. I need to know if it's your unit before I call a plumber." "Me, okay, give me a second." I looked around, debating what to do. I didn't want to abandon my carefully selected groceries, but I also didn't want to be responsible for water damage. I noticed a small coffee shop inside the store near the entrance. I decided to park my cart by a table, run to the restroom quickly, and call my landlord back from there for more details. Being cautious, I took my receipt from the self-checkout terminal where I'd scanned a small item earlier to verify a price. I stuck it in my pocket, thinking it might help me reclaim my cart if there was any confusion. I also hung my distinctive bright blue jacket on the cart handle as a clear marker that it belonged to someone. "Me, I'll be right back. Please watch my cart for a minute." I said this to the barista, who gave me a distracted nod as she served other customers. I hurried to the restroom, called my landlord back, and got the details about the water issue. Thankfully, he had already figured out it was coming from another apartment. The whole detour took less than 5 minutes. When I returned to where I'd left my cart, I froze in disbelief. My cart was gone. My jacket was gone. I looked around frantically, thinking maybe the barista had moved it or security had taken it somewhere. Then I spotted my bright blue jacket about 20 feet away on a woman pushing my cart toward the checkout lanes. I hurried over, trying to be polite despite my rising irritation. "Me, excuse me, ma'am. I think you have my shopping cart." The woman turned around. She appeared to be in her mid-50s with an expensive haircut and designer sunglasses perched on top of her head. She looked me up and down with obvious disdain. "Woman, this is my cart." Me: "No, I'm sorry, but that's definitely my cart. I just stepped away for a few minutes. That's my jacket hanging there, and those are all the groceries I spent the last hour and a half selecting." Woman: "Well, it's my cart now. You abandoned it. First come, first served." She actually smirked at me. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Me: "That's not how it works. You can't just take someone else's full cart. I only stepped away for a moment, and I asked the barista to watch it." Woman: "Should have taken it with you. Not my problem." She started to turn away, but I stepped in front of her. Me: "Ma'am, please. This is ridiculous. I have my shopping list here with everything checked off. I can describe every item in that cart." Woman: "So can I. Now move out of my way before I call security." The threat of security actually made me feel relieved. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my receipt. Me: "Perfect. Let's get security involved. I have my receipt right here that shows I've been shopping in the store." The woman's eyes widened slightly when she saw the receipt, but she quickly composed herself. Woman: "That could be for anything. This is my cart, and I'm in a hurry." She tried to push past me, but I stood my ground. By now, a small crowd had gathered, watching our confrontation with interest. A store employee approached us. Employee: "Is there a problem here?" Me: "Yes." I briefly stepped away from my cart to take an urgent call, and when I came back, this woman had taken it. "That's my jacket right there, and those are all the groceries I spent over an hour selecting." Woman: "This is my cart. I've been shopping all morning. This person is trying to steal my groceries." The woman's voice had risen to a shrill pitch, and she was putting on quite a show of indignation. The employee looked uncomfortable, clearly not wanting to accuse either of us of lying. Employee, let me call my manager to sort this out. While we waited, the woman kept huffing and checking her watch dramatically. She suddenly grabbed my jacket from the cart and thrust it at me. Woman, here, take your stupid jacket. It was on the floor, and I picked it up. The cart is still mine. I took my jacket, but noticed something important. Me, if the jacket was on the floor, why was it hanging perfectly on the cart handle? She didn't have an answer for that. The manager arrived, a tall man with a serious expression. Manager, what seems to be the problem? We both started talking at once, but he held up his hand to stop us. Manager, one at a time, please. The woman jumped in first. Woman, I've been shopping for over an hour, and now this person is trying to claim my cart is theirs. I need to check out and get home. My husband is waiting in the car. Me, that's not true. This is my cart. I stepped away for less than 5 minutes to take an urgent call from my landlord about a water leak. I even asked the barista to watch it for me. When I came back, this woman had taken it. I have my receipt and shopping list to prove it. I showed him the receipt and my detailed shopping list with items checked off. The manager looked at both of us thoughtfully. Manager, we can easily resolve this. Let's check the security footage. In the meantime, I'll have another employee help one of you gather your items again, so we can minimize the delay. The woman's face suddenly changed from indignant to nervous. Woman, I don't have time for this nonsense. Just let me check out. My husband needs his medication, and it's in the cart. Manager, it will only take a few minutes to review the footage. Ma'am, we want to make sure everyone leaves happy. Woman, this is ridiculous. I'm a loyal customer. I spend thousands of dollars here every year. I want to speak to the store director. Manager, I am the store director. Ma'am, please wait here while I check the footage. He walked away, and the woman turned to glare at me. Woman, you're making a big mistake. My husband is a lawyer and will sue this store and you personally if this continues. I stayed calm, though my heart was racing. I knew I was right, but her confidence was unsettling. Me, if your husband is waiting in the car, maybe you should call him to come in and help sort this out. She ignored my suggestion and started tapping her foot impatiently. After a few minutes, the manager returned with a security guard. His expression had hardened. Manager, ma'am, I've reviewed the footage. The cart clearly belongs to this customer. We have video of them shopping with it for over an hour, and then briefly stepping away. We also have footage of you taking the cart while they were gone, removing their jacket from the handle, and walking away with it. The woman's face turned red, but she wasn't backing down. Woman, your cameras must be wrong. This is my cart. Security guard, ma'am, the footage is very clear. We can see you abandoning your own empty cart in aisle 12 and then taking this full one when the owner stepped away. Woman, this is outrageous. I've never been so insulted in my life. Manager, ma'am, what you did is attempted theft. You tried to steal over $200 worth of groceries that someone else had selected. Woman, it's not theft. The cart was unattended. Manager, that's not how it works. Those items weren't yours to take. Now, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the store. Woman, leave? I haven't done my shopping yet. Manager, you're no longer welcome to shop here today. In fact, I'm issuing a 30-day ban from this location. If you return before then, we'll call the police for trespassing. The woman looked around at the growing crowd of onlookers, her face now bright red with embarrassment and anger. Woman, you can't ban me. Do you know who I am? My husband plays golf with the owner of this chain. Manager, ma'am, I don't care if your husband plays golf with the president. We have a zero-tolerance policy for theft. Now please leave before I extend the ban to 90 days. Security guard, I'll escort you out. The woman looked like she might argue further, but the security guard took a step toward her, and she finally backed down. As she stormed out, she turned to shoot me one last venomous look. Woman, you haven't heard the last of this. After she left, the manager turned to me. Manager, I apologize for the inconvenience. Please feel free to continue your shopping, and we'll give you a 10% discount on everything in your cart for the trouble." I was so relieved I almost laughed. Thank you. I appreciate you sorting this out." Manager, "No problem. Unfortunately, this isn't the first time we've had to deal with cart theft. Some people think it's easier to take someone else's carefully selected items than to do the shopping themselves." As I finally headed to checkout, several other customers approached me to express their support. One elderly woman patted my arm. "Elderly customer, you handled that so well, dear. I would have lost my temper completely." Another customer chimed in. Another customer, "Did you see her face when they mentioned the security footage? Priceless." The whole incident became almost comical in retrospect, though it was stressful in the moment. I finished my checkout, grateful for the unexpected 10% discount, which actually put me under my original budget. As I loaded my groceries into my car, I spotted the woman in the parking lot, arguing with a man who I assumed was her husband. He looked mortified as she gesticulated wildly, pointing back at the store. When she noticed me watching, she quickly ducked into their expensive SUV. The next weekend, I returned to the store for a few items I'd forgotten. The same manager recognized me and came over to chat. "Manager, thought you might like to know. Our cart thief tried to come in yesterday using a disguised big hat and sunglasses. Our security recognized her immediately and reminded her of the ban. She made another scene, and now she's banned for 6 months." We both laughed, and he walked away. As I continued shopping, I kept a close eye on my cart the entire time. Some lessons you only need to learn once, though apparently, some people never learn them at all.